Faith in reality. We are surrounded by an excess of information that dissolves trust. Reality no longer presents itself simply. It arrives filtered, refracted, contested. We no longer take things on face value because we no longer know where the face is. More and more, I wonder whether anything like a primordial ground of reality is still meaningful. What Zen might call mind or emptiness. What Christians might call God. What atheists and agnostics might simply call reality or being, with a capital B. And so the mind flickers. It flickers between narratives, between versions of truth, between what is presented and what is suspected. When the mind cannot reconcile what it encounters, it begins to erode itself through doubt, analysis without end, and a loss of faith in the world and in its own capacity to know. On this backdrop, I came across these words by Saint Catherine of Siena. Though indeed, dear, I can understand how a person's faith can at time flicker. For what is the mind to do with something that becomes the mind's ruin? Catherine is speaking of faith in God, but I'm not so much wondering about faith in God, but about something more immediate and unsettling. Faith in reality itself. How do we make sense of all the bullshit we encounter every day? There is a temptation to stabilise everything by returning to the idea of an absolute, objective truth. A God, capital T truth. To adopt, hook, line and sinker, what has already been laid out and inherit certainty. I feel the lure, but I can't swallow the bait. Truth isn't first something conceptual, then to be put into practice. Truth is an instantaneous situation. Truth is in the act of engagement, and then we fuck it up by trying to define it, pin it down, and talk about it. Exactly what I'm doing now. This would have better been a video of me preparing tea in silence. but I had to go and ruin it. Indeed, dear, I can understand how a person's faith can at times flicker. For what is the mind to do with something that becomes the mind's ruin? Søren Kierkegaard was a passionate Christian, but he didn't believe that going to church or saying prayers made one so. The real task was far more risky. To stake everything on a belief you can never prove. If there were a timeless truth, we could not comprehend it, because we ourselves are not timeless. Finite beings cannot grasp the infinite. So truth, in any meaningful sense, cannot be something out there to be possessed. It must be something lived. Abraham cannot know whether it is God or the devil commanding him to sacrifice Isaac, his own son. There is no certainty, only decision. Do it or do not do it. You will regret both. To act without outsourcing judgment to the church, the internet, the media, your peers, or state institutions is one of the most radically responsible things you can do amidst all the bullshit. Even when the mind flickers before what it cannot grasp, whether it be God or a relentless assault of information. Saint Catherine reminds us to respond out of love and take responsibility for our position. So, are you waiting to know or willing to become? Where are you outsourcing your judgment? What belief are you hiding behind to avoid acting? How do you meet reality when it doesn't fit your narrative? Can you stay with one thing long enough for it to speak? Without a practice, you are almost inevitably living inside other people's versions of truth. In tea, you don't begin with a concept of reality. You begin with boiling water, purifying utensils, preparing tea, and drinking it. You commit, hook, line, and sinker, to the act before deciding what it means. Maybe this is what my faith looks like. meeting reality directly, again and again, so that I might mature and live decisively in truth.